Good evening, everyone. Apologies, I'm well late this evening. I was actually sitting here at 6 p.m. on the dot, but then something happened to my computer that I had to restart it. And so hopefully it will remain stable for the rest of the live. Apologies for keeping you all waiting. By the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm Tim Box. I'm an anxiety specialist. I'm a therapist. I'm a mind coach. I'm a remedial hypnotist. All of those many titles that we give ourselves. But my specialist area is to work with people one-to-one with anxiety. And that's what these lives are all about, to help you guys reduce anxiety, get control of anxiety. If you know of me, you've probably seen my TED Talk, which is called How to Stop Feeling Anxious About Anxiety. And it's all about the anxiety we feel about starting to get high anxiety. I also have a book out called Clear Your Head, which talks about how I work with people, talks about the way we think about things, talks about how we might change things. So thank you for joining me tonight. Or if you're watching this on playback, thank you for clicking on the video. I hope it provides some help for you. And if it does, please share the video, because the more people that share it, the more people potentially get some help. Okay, so the way this works is you guys are in the room at the moment who ask me any questions about anxiety you want, anything you want me to go over, anything you want me to, any questions you need answered. I do have a ton of questions that I've had put on my videos, that some of them that I can answer in the comments and just be very short answers. Others warrant a bit more of an explanation, and that's what this forum is for, basically, is to answer those questions that deserve a little bit more of a longer explanation. Okay, so, but of course, as I always say, I prioritize the questions that come in the room. So if you're in the room, ask me a question. And who knows, maybe we can get you feeling a little bit better tonight. Okay, so I'm going to say hello to people in the room first. Carlos, Diane, hello. Strawberry Polka Dot, good to see you. Loz, hello. Hope you're all enjoying your, well, it's Easter weekend, isn't it? So it's technically, it's Good Friday. It should have been a day off today for everyone. Hope you've enjoyed your day off if you had a day off. Right, let me hello, Matt. Don't worry about the late. I've only just started, Matt, because I was late as well. Late for my own bloody live. Can you believe it? I thought I was going to be late because I was having a hair emergency. But as you can see, I've just about saved it. So, but then it was an internet emergency that got me, that ended up making me late. Just for once, the problem wasn't my hair. Right, okay. Carlos, I'm going to put this comment up here because you've asked questions straight away. Hi, Tim. Since self-esteem has a big impact on the anxiety, how we can work on it? In my school times, actually make my self-esteem disappear. My teachers were the bullies. Oh, wow, that's really bad. I'm sorry you went through that, Carlos. Crazy as it sounds. Yeah, you know what? It actually doesn't sound that crazy. So I went to one of those all-boys schools, and it had pretensions of being like a private school, but it wasn't. It was like a grammar school, and the teachers tended to be really old school in terms of like quite old-fashioned, the old-fashioned English master and things like that. And I know so many people that I went to school with that now I see them, I catch up with them years later, they'll tell me about a certain teacher, and not the same teacher, by the way. It's like they've all got their teacher that they felt victimized them and essentially bullied them and destroyed their self-esteem. Because I think a lot of the time, well, especially, I mean, hopefully it was more prevalent in my time rather than modern times. But again, who knows? I have my suspicions that it might be just as bad. But sometimes people think like the drill sergeant approach to getting people to work is the way to motivate people, which I don't think it is. Personally, I think that's the worst way of motivating people, through like fear and the kind of killing off people's self-esteem. But it's not uncommon that that's the approach that the authority figures in our school years would attempt to use. And also, you've got to remember that they're probably viewing a lot of the kids that they're dealing with as who don't want to be there. They would rather not be there. So potentially they're anticipating resistance, and maybe they're getting resistance as well. So there's the dynamic of the teacher-student relationship can be a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a feisty one at times, a bit of a troubled one. Now, but the question is about self-esteem. How do we build up our self-esteem? I think the important thing to remember here is that we are not born with insecurities. Okay, they are things that we learn. And Carlos, you mentioned it was at school. You look to your teachers for your inspiration, and sometimes they do the exact opposite. So we take that as gospel, we take that as true about ourselves, and then we feel really rubbish about ourselves. But we're not born with these insecurities. So it's not like we have to build our confidence. It's not like we have to, I've seen this thing before online. I remember seeing this, very vividly remembering seeing something that says, hey, we're not born confident. We have to develop confidence. I'm like, no, we are born confident. We're born 100% confident because we have no doubts about ourselves when we come into the world. As a baby, we don't come out of the womb and wonder why everyone's looking at us, because it's like we just get on with stuff. And there's always that point where we stop just regarding ourselves as okay and start to realize, hey, there could be negative things about me, and generally they're pointed out by other people. So I tend to think, if we could go without that negative criticism, and here's the thing, right? Most of the time, if we don't get any negative criticism, like negative feedback for a period of time, we naturally return to that natural state of confidence in ourselves. Yeah, not necessarily confidence in everything we attempt to do, but confidence in ourselves. Hey, I'm okay. Yeah. But we don't get to that stage because we have that voice in our head. But it's not our voice. It was the voice of our tormentors, of our bullies. Yeah, and there's that part of us now that's repeating that truth, that version of reality to us. So we spend a lot of time beating ourselves up and putting ourselves down, whether we even consciously are aware of it or not. Yeah, I always ask this question. Imagine if, like, this evening we went to bed and then we woke up in the morning and we couldn't give ourselves any shit. Yeah, we couldn't beat ourselves up. We couldn't be negative towards ourselves. That voice inside that gives us all this self-castigation suddenly is switched off. Just how much negativity would we actually receive that day? Not much, I'd imagine, because it's not the people in our lives now that are giving us the negativity. It's ourself that gives us the major negativity. So, I always sign off with be kind to your mind. That's my little tagline. There's a reason for that, because if everyone on the planet just suddenly started being kind to themselves, and giving themselves positive feedback, not always looking for the negative bias on everything that they do, then you know what would happen? We would naturally return to that predetermined state of confidence in ourselves. Hey, I'm okay. Yeah, there's a video that was going the rounds on Facebook years ago, and it was they were interviewing children. No, they were interviewing adults first, and they said, if you could change one thing about you, what would you change? This is one at a time. They were interviewing people, and a lot of the people were saying, "Oh, I'd be taller, I'd have more hair, my nose would be smaller." The things that generally were the focus of the negativity that they received, or they'd received in their life. Okay, and then they asked a load of like 4 or 5 year olds, "Well, if you could change one thing about you, what would you change?" And their answers were very, very different. Yeah, they would say, one boy I remember saying, I'd have a shark's mouth so I could eat loads of food really quickly. And one of the girls said, I'd have fairy wings so I could fly around the room sprinkling fairy dust on everyone. Yeah, and some of the kids would just say, well, I wouldn't change anything. I'd look in the mirror and it wouldn't look like me anymore. That'd be really weird. Yeah, because nobody had yet taught them that there was anything wrong with them. Now, if you put it into that perspective, suddenly we might realize that, hey, the things that other people didn't like about us, that's okay, because not everyone is going to like us 100%, are they? It'd be really weird if all of the 8 billion people on the planet looked at us and said, I think you're perfect. Nothing I'd change about you, given the old magic wand. So everyone's going to have their own opinion on what's good or bad about us. And some people might think we're really awful, the opinions we hold and things like that. But we're not here to keep everyone else happy. Our job is to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And that kind of is dictated by letting go of this idea that we need to be judged positively. Okay, so self-esteem is a big subject. As you can probably tell, I've chatted for like 5 minutes about it and I haven't even scratched the surface. Okay. But what I would say is that just remember the insecurities that you were given, Carlos, were the opinions of other people. And they're not the expert on you. Yeah. If you're going to get an opinion from somebody, go to the expert. If I want, an opinion on, I don't know, I'm doing like works on the house. If I want my plumbing sorted, I'll go to a plumber. If I want my electric sorted, I'll go to an electrician. Yeah. If I want an opinion about me, I need to go to the expert on me, don't I? And who's the expert on me? It's me, because I'm the only person that's lived every moment of my life, understood every moment of my life, and been like privy to the thoughts and the motivations of the main character in that story. Okay. So inevitably, somebody gives you an opinion of you, you'll either agree or you disagree. If you agree, great. Isn't it good when we agree? They've told you nothing new about you. It won't affect how you feel about yourself at all. If it's something you disagree with, well, guess who's wrong then? Yeah. And for me, that's how we change our own opinion of ourselves. And one other thing, okay? Too often we withhold positive opinion of ourselves, or like self-love, if you put it that way, until we make some qualitative judgment on how well we're doing, how good we are, how well we're coping, something like that. Yeah. So if we have a good day, we'll feel good about ourselves. If we have a bad day, we feel bad about ourselves. And it's almost like, I will love me if I feel I'm worthy of love. And that's got things the wrong way around. Yeah. Step one should be, I love me. That's it. That's the baseline. Yeah. Because when you think about it, if there's things about you you want to improve, then you need to care enough about you to make those changes. Yeah, you need to love the person who you want to improve. Otherwise, you won't put the effort into change. You won't be engaged. You won't be invested in change. You'll just constantly be telling yourself how crap you are. Okay, so that's what I would say is the foundation. Moment one, first step. Make sure you understand that you're here to love yourself. Yeah, and then any improvements you want to make about yourself, go ahead, go for it. Things you like about yourself, leave the same. Absolutely. But just remember that all those insecurities you got about yourself, they're not yours. They're someone else's opinion, and they're not the expert on you. Okay. Hope that makes sense, Carlos. Hope that answer was of value to you. And you're right. Self-esteem does play a big part in anxiety. If we don't feel good about ourselves, then we're going to feel a lot more anxious about the challenges that we face. Yeah. Evening, Paul. Evening, Alan. Alan, you got a question? Oh, happy Easter to you, Paul, as well. Any advice for bad health anxiety? Yeah, well, health. So I've got a video about health anxiety that you can have a look at, Alan. It's well, go to the channel and Google health anxiety, and you're searching the channel for health anxiety, because it was a while ago now. Health anxiety, right? This is one of those instances where I'm like, oh, I'd really like to chat with Alan and find out exactly what aspect of health anxiety is going on there. Yeah. I think, remember, when we're in an anxious state, we start to hyperfixate on sensations in our body. Okay. And also remember that going into fight or flight, which is what high anxiety is, creates a load of sensations in our body. Yeah. Like it can, not only are we noticing any little shift, we're creating the shifts ourselves. Okay, so things like the traditional things that we feel health anxiety about, like chest pains and stomach issues and all that kind of thing. If we're feeling shaky, if we're feeling jittery, these are just a few of the symptoms of fight or flight, of the sensations that come with fight or flight. It's your body filling with adrenaline and doing everything it needs to do to save your life, like instantly, with some physical effort, because obviously that's how we've evolved as human beings. Yeah, the days that we're in now, where our problems are solved with a calm body and a clear mind, because they're just, they're largely admin issues that we have to deal with in life now. We haven't evolved to be that type of human being yet. We're still at the stage of evolution where we, if we get a fright, we go into fight or flight. If we have a challenge, we suddenly, our heart starts to race, as if we're going to make some physical exertion now. So it's worth remembering that even when we're facing something small, we might have a physical reaction to that. Okay, but your body's just getting you ready to take action. So when it comes to health anxiety, always remember that not only are you doing this thing of putting things under the microscope. Yeah, we talk about the microscope effect, where you put a speck of dust under a microscope. It can look like a monster if you look at it close enough. Yeah, and that's what happens with our bodily sensations. And then there's also like the magnifying glass effect, yeah, where you actually burn a hole in things. You create physical symptoms in yourself just by thinking about them, just by focusing on those ideas. Yeah. The thing that always taught me was, well, I think I can't remember when it was now, but my sister went through a lot of anxiety about, she thought she had a brain tumor for a long time because she was suffering really, really bad headaches, and she'd like Googled all the symptoms and everything. And she was absolutely certain when she had these tests that she's having migraines like every, several times a week. And she just knew that it was going to come back and she had some sort of brain tumor. And then when she got the results back and she didn't, and they were like, this is, you're overstressed at work, she didn't have another migraine again. It was literally her concern about her fears that created all of this stuff. So my advice with health anxiety, if you have physical sensations that you're worried about, go see the doctor. That's what they're there for. Yeah. But when they say, we've done all the tests and everything is fine, A, believe them because they're the expert in that area. Yeah. And B, understand that you don't then have to continue your search for what it could be, because I tell you right now, your mind can create these feelings. That's the smoking pistol there, is the fact that you were stressed about them. Yeah, a lot of health anxiety starts with legitimate health concerns and then is exacerbated and perpetuated by our anxiety about our health concerns. Yeah, so, and a lot of people I see for health anxiety have either rejected the doctor's diagnosis that everything is fine, or they've then started to get anxious about, you mean this is anxiety? Oh my God, what does that mean? What's this going to do to me? People perceive themselves as having tested positive for anxiety when actually they've tested negative for everything. Yeah, so that's a general overview on health anxiety, Alan. If that's of any use to you, I realize it's a bit of a sweeping one there, but then you just asked for advice on bad health anxiety. So but I feel like, this is one of the instances, if we had a conversation directly, I'd understand where it came from, where it started, why it perpetuates right now, that kind of thing. But I hope that was of value. Strawberry Polka Dot, you're coming in on what we were saying about teachers. Hang on, let me just get this up one. Third grade teacher I had was awful and tried to embarrass me every chance she could. I couldn't stand her, and my parents had to have a real good talk with that witch. That witch, she really wasn't good, was she? I'll tell you what, if anyone in your life ends up casually referring to you as that witch, you haven't done them any favors. You know what I mean? You've not treated them fairly. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I really am. Here's a funny thing, though, about that. One of my teachers that I loved at school, I didn't love all my teachers, I wasn't that guy, but one of my teachers that I just got on with well, and he helped me so much. And I've always thought of him as, I don't know, you put people on a little bit of a pedestal. I was talking to one of my best mates who happened to go to the same school as me, but we weren't in the same year and we didn't really know each other at school. We became friends afterwards. And he was talking about the teacher that he had that was, he still considers as traumatized by what that teacher put him through. And it was the same teacher that I thought was freaking amazing. And I didn't say anything when he told me. And I wasn't, because I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to say, I thought he was great. But different people, different. But I think that teacher gave him a different version of himself than he gave to me. But for whatever reason, Saigon Saint, you've come in here as well. I've been bullied by my teacher as well because I was tall and long haired. I've been called out on girl names all the time as a teenager. Even my parents took his side. Yeah. You know what? It's so horrible. And I think there's a bit of me that has a tremendous amount, at the same time, has a tremendous amount of sympathy for teachers because they're put through it as well. I think teachers are the most thankless task in the world in terms of job. I don't know why anyone would go into teaching because I know the hell we put our teachers through at school. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think enough teachers recognize their responsibility that in the way that they're shaping them, not just the minds of the people they're teaching, but the emotions. I've said for a long time that the sort of stuff I talk about should be taught in schools, in terms of understanding our emotions and feeling okay about the way we feel. Okay. And I think also teachers should get some education in managing the emotions of young, vulnerable minds. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm sure they do, but you know what I mean? It's when you're in the trenches, when you're in that environment, very difficult. But I'm like that though. When people say, "Oh, school days, best days of your life," I'm like, really? Jesus, man. They were not for me. Mac, evening. You've put most people are douchebags themselves anyways. Some people can be without wishing to tar everyone with the same feather. But again, okay, should I talk about this? I think, look, let me put it this way. Imagine if we all started good. Imagine we went with that assumption. Everyone starts out as a good person. Okay. You know that natural thing you feel when you do something nice for somebody and they recognize it as something nice, and how good you feel about you when you do that thing. I think that's quite a natural response. And I think that's generally where we err towards, with all things being equal. But unfortunately, where we feel threatened or we end up getting hurt ourselves, or maybe we go through stuff that we weren't ready or prepared to go through in our younger years, it shapes our view on the world. And maybe we stop seeing the value in being a good person. Maybe we assume everyone we meet is going to be a bad person. I mean, as illustrated there, Mac, by your comment, it's like sometimes I try and make the assumption that everyone started good. And if you're not good, or if you're clearly, then something's happened. Yeah. I mean, unless you're here as a client, it's not my job to understand that. It's not my job to work out what that was. But I think, I don't know. I'm sort of very resistant to the idea that someone is just innately an arsehole. I think you've been through stuff. You've been taught stuff. And I think there's, unfortunately, with the internet now as well, everyone's opinion is available at the slightest notice, isn't it? Yeah. To Carlos, you're saying since you left school, we went on evening school just to avoid all the insults and names. You know what? This is Carl. I think when we experience high anxiety, I think we got to understand that there is always a reason. Okay. And I know my social anxiety came from those days at school when I felt like, I had a very intense short period of bullying around my sort of 5th to 6th form, so the last 2 or 3 years of my schooling. But I know as well that I went through certain stuff earlier on as well that shaped my attitude to it. You've got to remember, all this stuff is being picked up as you go. So, but I repeat that thing, that you don't have to allow the opinions or the attitudes of the people that were around you when you were young, when they were young as well. And a lot of the time when it's other kids, or maybe just they're reacting to their shit that they haven't dealt with yet. Don't let that, don't think you just have to remain victim to that. Yeah. We can take our own power back, as it were. You've only got to make you happy with who you are. So let's focus on that, Alan, you've come back with a bit more on the health anxiety stuff. Hang on. I've been to the doctors and was told you're young to go away. Turns out I needed heart surgery. Now I've been diagnosed with chronic asthma over a phone call. Dodgy doc, but I can't forget it. So this is the thing. I tell you what as well, we talk about the time when, the doctors just said, oh, you can't be that. And it turns out you have got something, an issue. There are going to be times when, we've all got stories about doctors making mistakes. Okay. I get that totally. And there's going to be times as well when we've got health issues. So for example, you want to know my health issues? I got an aortic stent. So I had my aorta, my main heart valve was pinched and, very, very narrow. And I had to have a stent put in there. I had epilepsy a lot when I was younger. And, you guys who follow the channel will know that last January, I had an episode that we still don't know if it's a recurrence of the epilepsy or not. We're still, brain scans, etc. All that kind of thing. And I remember going through a phase of health anxiety right after that. And then there comes that point where you've got to be like, okay, hang on a minute. All I've got to do is manage my health as best I can. Yeah. And when you think about it, that's what we want to do anyway. That's what we're naturally inclined to do, is manage our health as best we can. So I don't have to be thinking about this constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because managing my health kind of only comes in short bursts. Like when I'm eating my food, will I eat healthy? Will I eat unhealthy? Will I have a sip of water in a moment? Something like, you know what I mean? It's like, do I need to go to the doctor's appointment to get the things sorted that I need sorted? Yeah. So I think it's worth remembering that as human beings, who was it who said this? And it made me smile, but I think it was James Smith, actually. I don't know if you follow James Smith. I don't follow him so much now, but I used to. Human beings are quite hard to kill, which is a weird thing to say, I know, but because we know that, we've all got examples of people around us that have died, or had serious health issues. But generally speaking, our body's quite good at healing. It's really good at it, actually. You could argue it's what it does best. Yeah. And I think if we're going to say, right, where does my focus, what, if I'm playing the odds here, what should I expect? You should probably expect a fairly healthy progression through your life, providing you're not doing, deliberately destroying your health. Yeah. And that for me is the sort of takeaway for me when I'm thinking about my health, is that I'm doing what I can do. Yeah. And anything else that I'm doing is going to interrupt that very natural process of looking after my health. Anything that I'm thinking about, any focus I'm putting on it. And then I have the faith that as much of a sickly child as I seem to be, apparently, things wrong with my brain, things wrong with my heart, I'm still here, and I'm still, I'm still living life. Don't let the worries of tomorrow take away your today, that kind of thing. So, but Alan, you've got evidence. That's the thing. You've got evidence of times when I did need to be a bit more vigilant than I thought I had to be. But remember, you've also got evidence of you being healthy, of you being happy, of you being perfectly okay. You've actually got more evidence of that. Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? We look at the big challenges in life, but they're very infrequent. Even if, when I see a client and they'll tell me that life has been horrible, everything always goes wrong all the time. And they might be able to list, a dozen or more really, really extreme things that have happened to them. But in the grand scheme of things, compared to the times when nothing happened, when life was pretty boring and mundane, they're actually a very small minority of their life. They just seemed larger because when we look back at all the incidents in our life, they're the big things that rise up like mountains, and when we look back on everything, those mountains seem closer together. Yeah. Because, our looking back foreshortens everything, if that's a metaphor that resonates. When actually most of the time, there's huge gaps of space between those negative times filled with nothingy times, boring, mundane, even pleasant times, and the only thing stops those times in between the big challenges being pleasant is worrying about when the next challenge might arise. So, I personally encourage myself not to do that. And that's what I encourage people that I see as clients as well. That's certainly what we encourage their subconscious to do. That little part of your mind in there that's running your emotional side, your focus, all that sort of thing. Hope that helps. Hang on, Saigon Saints put this up. Do you have a video about how to survive Easter with our parents who tend to get negative, conservative, and martyrish? How to sit through hours of political dialogue without zoning out? Egg hunt, yeah. I do. I mean, I don't know if I should say this because my parents don't watch my lives. No, that's that. But yeah, it's true. Whenever we go over to my mum and dad's, I love them dearly. But I know that they just hold very different political views to me, and they'll just want to, the propensity of my dad to say something sweeping and offensive, it just increases as the years go on. Remember, no one can hurt you without your permission. You don't have to engage in everything. You don't have to change the opinions of the people in front of you every time either. That's the other thing. I think we get stressed about it because it's like, I'm not going to let that stand, that comment or something like that. But you don't have to correct everyone. You don't have to fight every battle, And also you don't have to, even though it's like parents, and after all, whose opinion did we value most right from the offset? Our parents. That's what we call the child's burden, the beliefs of our parents. Yeah. We carry them with us. And even when we know we disagree with them on like 99% of stuff, we still find ourselves asking their advice when we're doing something in life or something like that, because there's a little bit of us that says, if mum and dad think it's okay, then probably it'll be okay. And then if they say, no, it's not okay, even though we're absolutely dead set that they're wrong because their reasons aren't, it still puts the doubt in our mind. But that's parents for you, but just know you don't have to fight every battle, even with people that traditionally, whose opinion you would value as well. Zoning out is an egg hunt. Yeah, maybe an egg hunt. One year at Christmas, I sat my dad down before Christmas. I said, look, Dad, I don't want you offending anyone this year. He was really good about it as well. He was great about it. He didn't offend anyone that year, then completely forgot about it every time since. But, that's parents for you, Romana, hi, how you doing? Sarah, evening, everyone. Just passing by to say hello. Just stopping in. Good to see you, Sarah. Right. Okay. Let me remind you. You got one here. Will you please throw some light on palpitations while and after eating and digestive issues? Always aware of our own heartbeat. Yeah. Okay. So this is what it goes back to what we were saying. Yeah. When we have a point of fixation, a thing that bothers us, then we notice it. And light palpitations while we're eating. So you're taking in energy, right? Hang on. Let me start from the beginning. Your heart rate will change all the time. Yeah, it doesn't remain constant all the time. Yeah, if you've ever worn a Fitbit that records your heart rate throughout the day, you'll know this. Okay, it's like that sort of thing. Yeah, because you're constantly managing the input and the output of energy. Yeah, and this machine doesn't just work kind of metronomically because you're doing more or you're doing less. Eating is a functional activity. You might be taking in sugars, you might be taking in other things that are going to stimulate your system. Okay, so your heart rate shifting is a norm. Yeah. Now, what might be happening here is that where you're so focused on your heart rate, you're getting anxious about whenever you feel a change in your heart rate. The weird thing is, isn't it, when we've got sort of, people call it cardiophobia, isn't it? They're sort of fearful of their heart rate and what's going on with their heart. When we're dealing with that, we'll be able to tell you when our heart rate changes. Yeah, people that don't have that, they can't tell you that because they don't notice it. Because if they focused on it, they would, but they're not focused on it. Yeah. So the fact that you've got light palpitations while and after eating means that you're over focusing on it as a threat when it actually isn't. It's just your body doing what it needs to do, what it would do healthfully. Yeah. And digestive issues are a very natural side effect of being highly anxious, because one of the things when we go into fight or flight that your body does, for a start, all your tension is held in your gut, isn't it? People sometimes feel sick or they need the loo more often because your body's just trying to get rid of all your ballast, because you might have to run fast away from the predators or something like that, evolutionarily speaking, survival speaking. Okay. So that's why it all happens. The good news is you don't have to focus on that because it's not a threat to you. You might have perceived it as a threat, but good news is all those parts of your mind that are perceiving it as a threat can come down off of high alert because it's not. So next time you notice it, that's okay. Yeah. You can notice it without noticing it as if it's a threat to you. Yeah. Hope that makes sense. Carlos, just coming back on what you were talking about school there. On my school days, I had panic attacks basically every day. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Time I was thinking I was with a disorder and didn't understand that was the place where I was. Yeah, it was your environment, wasn't it? This is the thing. I think too often we are in an environment where we are simply reacting to the environment. Yeah, so we're feeling unsafe. And we have that natural response to feeling unsafe, feeling like, life or death unsafe. We go into panic. That's the natural, healthy response to a life-threatening situation. And yet then, of course, if we have a panic attack, somebody says to us, oh, that means there's something wrong with you. You've got panic disorder or something like that. Or we conclude it, we get on Google or we ask somebody, or we just, just from what we know, we just surmise that we must have a disorder or a problem, when all we're doing is reacting to the environment. And this is kind of what I talk about in the TED talk a little bit, isn't it? It's that as soon as we get that idea that we've got something wrong with us anxiety wise, then we don't allow ourselves just to feel anxious, which is a natural everyday emotion, anxiety. Yeah. If you think about, I'm going to leave you with this as the last thing I want to talk about tonight, the functionality of anxiety. It's one of your emotions, and all of your emotions are designed to ultimately steer you towards, happiness, of which safety is a huge component part, by the way. So if we experience fear, it's because a bit of our mind is saying there's danger over there, making us feel uncomfortable. So we move away from that danger to feel comfortable again. Yeah. Functional emotion. If we feel anger, maybe somebody has wronged us in some way, and so we're feeling inspired to take action to right the wrong. Okay. And anxiety, if you want to know what the function of anxiety is, it is to focus your conscious awareness on whatever your mind deems to be the most important thing to take care of right now. Okay. Now that can be a threatening thing, or it could be a positive thing to move to, like you wake up and I've got to remember to do that thing today, or I'm excited to go and do that. We're going to, I don't know, the theme park or something. Yeah. It's that anxiety that says, oh, don't forget that, take the bins out, send that email, pay that bill. Yeah. So that's all that anxiety is. And that's a daily thing because there's always the next most important thing to focus on. So what that means is you're going to feel anxiety every day. The problem comes when you start to regard anxiety as a malfunction or a disorder. And then whenever you feel any natural anxiety, something in you says that's wrong, isn't it? That's my disorder. That's my illness flaring up. And as you rightly put there, Carlos, you had high anxiety levels and panic levels because you were in an environment where you just didn't feel safe. And everything in you was saying, get out of here. Yeah. So avoid the temptation. And this is our message to everyone watching this live. Avoid the temptation to frame anxious feelings as there's something wrong. I guarantee you, every time we feel anxious, it is for a reason. One of my big bugbears is people on the internet, anxiety experts saying anxiety can strike for no reason. No, it can't. There's always a reason. But you don't have to feel it's a sinister reason, because most of the times it's not. It's just a bit of your mind perceiving something important you need to focus on. Now, the reason why you feel it seemingly for no reason is because now you've started to perceive anxiety itself to be the big threat. So whenever you have even any trace of anxiety, before you even consciously are aware of it, a bit of you hits the alarm bell. There's that thing again. There's that problem. When actually it's just you reacting healthily to something that's deemed to be important. Okay. I've got a bit of a rant there, that last one. You know, I thought before I came on tonight, I'm going to keep it lighthearted tonight. And then I just started to rant. Anyway, okay. So thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you got something from this. I'm going to just mention here, one thing I want to say before I finish up here. You can become a member of this channel. Okay, so I do these Friday lives. I used to do them every week. I'm going to be doing them every sort of 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks. I'm not going to be doing them as often, but I do go live for the members of the channel every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. UK time. The members also have a private Facebook group that we have. You also get access to like over 100 extra videos. And that includes my full Clear Your Head Anxiety Relief Program videos, and you've got the full the control system, which is how I work with my clients. So there's a whole a tutorial set of videos that teach you how to use the system for yourself so that you can manage your own emotional responses and your emotional well-being. So there's loads of stuff in there, and you get to chat with me every Wednesday. So, and it's only $8.99 a month. So if you are looking for anxiety support and you don't feel that one-to-one therapy is what you're looking for, and you want something where you can at least have some interaction with a specialist like myself, then I think it's a pretty good option. And I think most people hopefully in the members group would say that as well. Try it for a month. If you don't feel you're getting your money's worth, then you don't have to take the next month, do you? Anyway, that being said, I'm going to sign off for tonight. Have a fantastic Easter weekend. If you are doing an Easter egg hunt, I really hope you find loads of eggs. If you're not doing an egg hunt, I hope you've got a nice Easter egg to chomp on whilst you're relaxing over the bank holiday weekend. Look after yourselves, relax. It's time off. And always remember, as I always say, no matter what you do, be kind to your mind. See you next time.